when you have a totalitarian government in power, don't just go out quietly in the night. They go out with a bang. They go out with a screech. And that's what we're going to see here. This next election, you got to get out and vote. You have to make your voice heard because they're introducing what we call Bill C-65. And we talked about this a couple months ago, where they're kind of want to make, add more days for voting and make it easier for mail-in voting and mail-in ballots and this, that, the other. Well, Bill C-65 has officially been proposed. And what they want to do is, so we can just brush up here what this bill says. They want to add 2 additional days of advance voting, giving Canadians a total of 7 days to cast their ballot. So keep in mind too, we're going to read this through, and this is going to come from a perspective of making voting easier and more accessible to the populace. That's how they're trying to sell it. So add 2 additional days of voting, giving Canadians a total of 7 days to cast their ballot. Wow. Improve the vote by mail special ballot process, including by allowing voters who registered for but did not use their special ballot to vote in person on election day with safeguards to prevent double voting. Sure. Make the 2015 pilot Vote on Campus program permanent. Offer dedicated on-site voting for electors in long-term care, including allowing staff to identify the best day and time for residents to vote. Give voters who require assistance, such as those with disabilities rendering them unable to mark their ballot, the choice of who may help them when voting. And, this is a fun one, move the 2025 fixed October 20th election date to the following Monday to not conflict with Diwali.
And so there's so much of that there that I'm like, yes. Ooh.
Which one did you go ooh at? I'm curious.
So if you go back up, so the mail-in ballots one freaks me out a little bit because I watched in the States how mail-in ballots just seem to change things. Yep. Depending on how things are trending. Suddenly the mail-in ballots come in and they all seem to be favoring the other guy. And then when you go back down to, we all know the changing the date, very fun. Of course, it's not to conflict with that holiday. That's the only reason.
Yeah. Well, what I thought was interesting too, after doing a little bit of research, is let's rewind back to 2019 when the Jewish community came forward and asked and requested that they push the election week by 1 week. The Liberals said, no, we can't do that. We can't push past October 20th because it's in the Constitution. We can't go farther than October 20th. All of a sudden, falls on Diwali. Well, we got to push it by a week. That has nothing to do with the fact that Liberal MPs line up for the pensions that week. And all of a sudden, they're all in. They're all good to go. We love the corruption at all the levels. It's awesome. But we won't get into that.
But to be fair, though, too.
Nope, there's no fair.
The amount of Conservative MPs and NDP MPs that are also going to be eligible for their pensions, too. That's why I don't think there's going to be a big fight from the other two parties. I think they're going to be like, yeah, this sounds great. That's fine. And they'd be okay with it because I think that there's a lot of them that are also going to be eligible for their pensions and be like, sounds great.
I actually would be curious. I think Poilievre's platform is going to tell us, he's going to tell us parties, suck it up. I don't care. We're going to get in anyways. So whatever.
Yeah.
Don't worry. Like, I think that's the play he's going to have with his party. Like they need to push it because they're going to lose.
Yeah.
We're going to win. So
you ain't retiring.
Yeah. Play by the rules out here. Right.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of the way it's going to play. I think you're right though. I think the NDP, they know they're going to lose too. So they'll probably want to push that as well. So likely that part could pass.
Yeah. It'd be interesting to see how many Bloc Québécois, how many NDP, how many Liberal, and how many Conservatives will actually be eligible for their pension if this gets pushed a week. Yeah. Because that will tell you how it's going to go.
Mm-hmm. Again, as you said, improving the vote by mail special ballot process. Like, we've seen this time and time again. This doesn't work. Do you want to see how much this doesn't work? We don't need we can talk about 2020, the election of states, and how awful that went. We can also look at other parts of history. Shall we? Let's have some fun with it. This is also, to be fair, I did fact check all these points that Elon Musk tweeted out. I thought this was an interesting stat. So, France banned mail-in voting in 1975 due to fraud. Mexico banned mail-in voting in 1992 due to fraud. Belgium banned mail-in voting in 2018 due to fraud. Sweden does not permit mail-in voting. Italy does not permit mail-in voting. Ukraine does not permit mail-in voting. Russia does not permit mail-in voting. Japan does not permit mail-in voting. No Middle Eastern country permits mail-in voting. No Latin country permits mail-in voting. Nobody does this. So you have to ask a question. Why is it being pushed here? It clearly doesn't work. It hasn't worked. And fraud is always fraught with mail-in ballots. Holy crap. You want to trust these people? I don't trust them.
Yeah, and especially because we've just added how many more millions of people?
Yeah.
And all those people, they could send in their mail-in ballots, and we wouldn't know because half these people, again, are brand new to the country, brand new citizens. I really think that is going to be what's going to be most scary looking at what our election is going to look like, because it's just going to be like, I know a lot of those folks are being let in by Trudeau, and so they're going to probably have some allegiance to the government that gave them citizenship. And if they're hearing that another government wants to limit immigration and they are themselves brand new immigrants, I think that this plays right into Trudeau's hand. So
when it comes to like the big thing that was stated with the mail-in process too, right? Where it says, again, improve the vote by mail special ballot process, including by allowing voters who registered for but did not use their special ballot to vote in person on election day with safeguards to prevent double voting. What are the safeguards we're talking about here?
Yeah.
Because we use a paper ballot process. It's very easy just to mail it in here, go to the polls on election day, and vote again. We have no real way of checking if you voted it twice or not. Like, it's not like we scanned it and it's going to a digital system. It's like, oh, this person already voted. Keep it moving. It's a paper ballot. I might be unknown. I don't know. What do we have in place to make sure you're not double voting? I'm unaware. I don't think there's a process, but I could be wrong. I hope there is. I want the chain of custody to be secure for everybody. I want everyone to have an opportunity to vote. But I don't know if we actually have a proper process to check, especially if we introduce something new. How much is that enough time to like do the proper checks? I have a feeling no.
Yeah, well, this is the problem, right? Is that they don't specify. They don't say because they don't know. They don't have a plan. When they have a plan, it's laid out. Mm-hmm. They don't have a plan for the safeguards. They're just saying that they're going to have it there. It's theater is what it is. What
are your thoughts on this, though? I'm curious. They give voters who require assistance, such as those with disabilities, rendering them unable to mark their ballot, the choice of who may help them when voting. What are your thoughts on, like, how do you feel when you read that? It's like, I'm curious.
At first, I was like, are you that disabled that you're not able to vote? Like, and then, what does that mean? That they're so disabled that they're not able to mark their ballot? Does that mean that you have like Parkinson's? Does that mean that you have lost your limbs somehow? Like, you know what I mean? I'm like, what does that mean? Does that mean that you have a mental handicap and so you have the mentality of a 6-year-old and therefore can't, but you are of age to vote and now somebody else is going to vote for you? It's interesting. I wonder what the process is right now, because I don't think that anybody would be turned away because they don't have limbs or the ability to, mark in the circle correctly. Like, you know what I mean? Like, depending on an illness or what have you. If you are of sound mind, I don't think you're going to be turned away right now. So I wonder, I wonder what the thought is for that. Because on the surface, if you have a disability and you say to somebody, I would like my wife to help mark the ballot for me, or I would like my father or mother or whomever, my person who's going to care for me and who's going to represent my wishes the best. I am saying that this is my person. I think that's great. That sounds great on the surface, but I'm just wondering, how far are we stretching the idea of disability, and how do you verify that person has selected that person to then vote on their behalf? It's weird. Again, it needs a little more substance to it, because right now it's very open-ended.
Absolutely. A lot of things that are mentioned here are slanting towards the party that's going to lose an election. So what is this? Where does this go? Because the next thing I'm looking at is, the pilot program that was done back in 2015, the Vote on Campus program, setting up polling right on campuses everywhere. which we know those who are younger, especially the way our campuses and the way they're run ideologically, are going to vote a certain way. So I think that's interesting. But then the other part was intriguing to me, was offering dedicated on-site voting for electors in long-term care. So essentially, what I understand is that essentially setting up polling stations at long-term care stage, which is interesting to me. Like, A, has that not been done before? Why is that new? And why are we doing? Like, it's really interesting how they're trying to expand all the ways we can vote, which is, I mean, hey, at the surface, awesome. I think everyone should have the opportunity to vote. But like, why is this important in 2025 and not so much important in 2021, 2019, or 2015?
Yeah, it's because, like you said, you have a party that's going to lose. And I think that, honestly, with the long-term care one, because you're going to have your diehard conservatives and your diehard liberals, that like, that's the way that generation votes. They're like, my daddy was a conservative, I'm going to vote conservative too. My preacher told me I had to preach conservative values, so I'm going to vote conservative. And then you have the same people who are like, I have always voted liberal and I will bleed liberal till I die. And like, that's your long-term care community, right?
Right.
You were right about your campuses. They're more liberal leaning usually. I think you'll see a change up with half your Gen Zs, and then when your Gen Alpha eventually gets to university, they're very conservative, which is interesting. But your Gen Zs, though, are split like in half, where you have very, very, very fervently liberal and then very conservative. So I think it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. But I think that your very conservative Gen Zs are probably not attending universities. They're probably attending more trade schools or colleges or different things that feel more practical and more down to earth. Whereas I find that in my conversations with the few Gen Zs that I know have spoken very negatively about university and about how they feel the ideologies that are on campuses right now don't reflect their vision, their views. So I think that it'll be interesting, but I do think that expanding to universities, I still think that it's important because we know that it's woefully low in younger populations voting. So I think that any way to actually extend that towards that population is probably a good thing. So yeah, I like it, but I do understand the underlying part of it is that we know that university kids are more likely to vote left.
Yeah. So I'll leave it at this. Bill C-65, write your MP about it. Tell them you don't want it. Because there's just too much bias in this bill that I'm not here for. If it was brought forth by the Senate, I would want to trust it a little bit more. But the fact it's not coming from the Senate and it's just being brought forward by the liberals, I don't have any time for it. Ditch it. Get out of here. Let's keep moving to 2025, baby. That was electric, wasn't it? Well, we enjoyed it. Hope you did too. If you did, you can check this video out here to the top right corner right near my window. Get over. There it is. There it is right there. And if you liked that, you can also check this one right here. We love you. Have a good one. Peace out.